Hello and welcome to the latest webinar in our spring series for the Great International Education and Schools Fair. So I'm delighted to have with me today Andre Casson, who is the head of school of the Australian International School in Singapore.
Hello Fiona, nice
Hello,
to see you.
Welcome to you. And so here's a fabulous picture of your students and it looks a wonderfully vibrant place, and from what I've spoken to members of your team, it all sounds very, very exciting. So it's great to have you with us today. Just to give our audience a bit of background, can you explain how you came to be at the school and what's your background?
Absolutely. Yeah, so I've been in my ninth year here at AIS and very much loving the opportunities that I have here at the school. Prior to that, I was in teaching in Brisbane, Australia. Spent a number of years there and spent most of my time teaching in that country. And I was aware of the Australian International School through my career in Australia. And when I went and spent 8 years up in Shanghai in China at Dulwich. So it was a place that was always an ambition that I wanted to get to, and I was fortunate enough in 2012 to make that ambition a reality.
Wonderful. So 9 years is to have a good knowledge of the school, but just give us a brief overview so people understand the size and the age ranges and curriculums.
Of course. So the Australian International School is a school here in Singapore. We are right in the middle of the island, so we're equidistant from all different parts of the island. We are a school that starts at 2 years of age and we move all the way through to 18 years of age. So our youngest students are our babies in our nursery program, and they work all their way through to matriculation in year 12, year 13 in a UK context, when our students will go off to university and beyond. Increasingly, we're seeing students that go all the way through. In fact, our head boy from last year, who got a perfect 45 out of 45 for the IB, Jono Oi, he's now studying over at Oxford, and he only knew one school, which was the Australian International School, which was lovely for us to be able to celebrate his journey through our school and off to Oxford, where he is now.
Brilliant. So it would be great if you could just give us a bit of a sense of Singapore and what it's like living and working and being an expat in Singapore, to get a real sense of people moving there, what it might be like for them, the school choices, and then we'll move over onto the education issues. So it all sounds fascinating. I'm looking forward to hearing from you.
Well, look, of course, I'm going to be slightly biased. The fact I've been here for 9 years, it is a destination, Singapore, that I love very much, and as do my wife and my two children. One of the things which is most wonderful about Singapore is that it is a very, very safe destination. Opportunities for my children to get out and about in the community is great. The locals are very accepting of expatriates. In fact, there's around about 1 million expatriates on the island and in different various working positions. So there is a great synergy between the locals and us as expatriates. One of the great things, some of the great things about living here is that it is a truly international destination. Opportunities for different cuisines, different sporting opportunities, different entertainment opportunities are all there, which will be similar to what you would have at home. But the other thing which is wonderful about Singapore is that it is very much in the centre of the world. When you live in Australia, you live a long way from anywhere. I'm from Perth, the most isolated capital city in the world. Now I live in Singapore. I can get across to Europe, to America, to other parts of Asia, maybe not at the moment, but when the world opens up again, very, very easily. And that's one of the great things about Singapore. We really are an international destination that embraces so many different cultures, so many different nationalities. Even us as a school, we have over 43 nationalities within our school. So it is ethnically and culturally a wonderful, diverse place to be.
And a very economically vibrant country and city as well. There seems to be a great deal of energy coming out of Singapore, and a lot of companies and individuals base themselves there so that they can trade work with other parts of Asia. So you must pick up on that from the schools. Do you get a bit of a flavour of the parents, where they've come from and why the families are there?
Yeah, definitely. So there would be very few big international companies that have not got some sort of footprint here in Singapore. We've got people from Google, from Facebook, from big Australian mining companies like BHP. Big banks are here in Singapore because it is a very, very safe and very, very stable economy, and also a very, very safe and stable political system. So companies come here because they know that they are going to be supported. They have a government that is pro-business and pro-trade and pro-the economy. So we see people from all over the world, from Fortune 500 companies to some people that are coming up here to have a startup to take the opportunities that exist here on this island. So that's the great thing about Singapore. It is a place where things are happening, and things are happening all the time, which is great. And we try and hook into that. So it's wonderful. We have events that have been virtual of late, but we'll get parents in to share their experiences with our students. And the diversity of experience that we get here is just absolutely magnificent.
And plenty of opportunities, and also it's a sort of centre of excellence, isn't it, Singapore? I mean, and there's a lot of expansion in the tertiary education, but also international schools. So education is very much underpinning the economy as well. Would you agree with that?
Oh, most definitely. Singapore is very much an education destination. It is a place of educational excellence. You look at how Singapore performs in the PISA rankings, they do exceptionally well. And then that moves into the tertiary sector. They're also very innovative and ambitious, where they go and make links with outside universities as well to bring them in. So Duke University has a footprint here with NUS, a number of Australian universities as well. So they really are supporting the region in terms of educational excellence. It really is a wonderful export of Singapore. They really value education, and it's great to be part of that.
And I also understand that the COVID-19 situation in Singapore, that was pretty much brought into control very quickly, and I got the impression that people, the communities and the schools knew exactly where they stood. So can you just give people a bit of a background about how the COVID-19 situation was handled in the country and also at your school?
It's interesting. Just the other day, I was catching a Grab, which is the local version of Uber, and we were just having a little bit of a conversation about what life was like here in Singapore under lockdown, and comparing that to what life was like with my family and friends in Australia. Here in Singapore, we may have had to wear masks. We are certainly making sure we're socially distanced. We have to check in when we go to any public space. We have our temperature checked. That's all fine. But when we're in lockdown, I was still able to get out and exercise. I was still able to go to the shops with my wife or my children. I was still able to engage in fairly normal life, because as a nation, the country put in place these very, very clear rules about what we could and couldn't do. And the people, including the expats on island, were very, very compliant with what was required. And we're seeing a sharp decline in terms of COVID numbers on island. And that's mirrored here at school. We're given great guidance about what needs to happen. Every gate in the school, there is a scanner. Sometimes I feel like I'm going to the airport when I come to work, and I get scanned as I come in. To make sure my temperature's fine, I need to scan in. But what that does is it keeps our community safe. And there's nothing more important and nothing more significant than that. The last piece of the puzzle is that we are rolling out the vaccinations at the moment. And we've had our frontline workers and our older citizens of Singapore with the first group that were vaccinated. And in the next group, I'm pleased to say that people working in schools. So in the next few weeks, I will be getting a text to tell me where I need to go and where I can make my appointments. And that is the same for all of the 500 staff here at AIS we're all going to be vaccinated in the next probably month or so. And that's really exciting because that means we're keeping everyone safe and hopefully means we're going to be opening up our country that little bit more.
And I think a lot of schools experienced that the challenge of getting quickly onto online was actually, on reflection, quite a useful experience. How did you take that? As a head, it must have been quite a headache, but looking back on things, what opportunities or benefits has that brought, the response?
Look, I love that quote from Churchill that you should never waste or never let a crisis go to waste. And what we have learned from the time that we had to move to online learning, home-based learning as we called it, and what we're going to take forward has been significant and important. Firstly, yes, the world is opening up, but even with the world opening up, we still have students that are stuck in their home country, or perhaps they've had to go back because of a family circumstance, which means they are in quarantine for 2 weeks. We've established robust and really significant online learning platforms that allow our students to still access when they're in those situations. And obviously we can get them back to campus as quickly as we can. Opportunities like having a graduation ceremony beamed throughout the world. Now, normally it's only the people in Singapore that get to see their grandchildren or nieces and nephews go and graduate in Year 12. But what we've done now is to be able to beam that into the world. That's something that won't change. Parent-teacher interviews. When mothers and fathers are travelling for their work, they can't be here for the parent-teacher interviews. We do them online now. So that means that no matter where a father or a mother is throughout the world, they can be engaged with their sons and daughters learning. And that's something which is really important to us. When we engage with our parents, we engage with our students, we engage with our staff, we get much, much better outcomes. So that is a few of the things that we've learnt from our home-based learning phase that we're taking forward and hopefully not letting that crisis that was 2020 go to waste.
And things like admissions, I noticed you've got some wonderful videos on your website and virtual tours, that sort of thing, and in fact open days. So how are you handling the sort of one-to-one with the parents and being able to showcase the school for new parents?
Yeah, that is interesting. Look, the one thing that I say about our school is that when you hear, you just know what the culture is all about. It is absolutely palpable, the way that we embrace where we are in the world, we embrace each other, the way that the teachers interact with parents, the parents interact with the teachers, and obviously the two of us interacting with the kids. And that's really hard to capture in a virtual forum. But our admissions team have been really innovative, getting around the school and capturing those moments of brilliance. They've engaged with our teaching staff, who are amongst the most talented and passionate educators that I've ever worked with in my almost 30 years in education. And they are sharing their stories so people can get online and see what is happening in the school. Then for people who may want to extend that a little bit further, it is possible to have those virtual one-on-one conversations, just like we're having now, I guess, Fiona, where we can unpack and address those specific issues that might be for your son or your daughter. So that's something that has been really impressive, and our marketing and admissions team have done that brilliantly in very challenging circumstances.
So you may seem a long way away to people who are in Europe or the States looking for school places or other parts of the world, but actually it's pretty easy and you're very accessible. So that's great to hear. So obviously AIS is a very prestigious and very well established international school in Singapore. So what do you think is the key to the school's success?
That's a great question. And I often reflect on what is that essence which gives us the opportunity to be the best that we can possibly be. And I really boil it down to three things. Firstly, it's the people in the school. We pride ourselves in recruiting the very, very best staff, be they operational staff or academic staff, that allow us to support the educational journey of our students. We make sure that we are robust in our background checking, in our checking of qualifications and experience, to make sure we get the people that are going to move our school forward. When they come to the school, we induct them into the culture of what we are as a school and what we aspire to be. We provide good training and positive structures to allow them to be the success that they want to be. So that's the first thing. The second thing that I'm really proud of is our tradition. We are a school that does have a strong tradition here in Singapore. Now, talking to people from the UK, a school of 27 years does not seem particularly old, but in the international teaching sector, that is quite a long and established school. And we know who we are, we're comfortable with who we are, and in fact, we are proud of who we are. We have positive academic results which come from our strong tradition in the quest of allowing every child to have the opportunity to be the best version of themselves. And that is supported by a pastoral program which is based on the tenets of positive education that ensures that the students' well-being, and more significantly their academic well-being, allows them to succeed in their classroom. So that's the second thing, our tradition. And the third thing is, when we go about trying to achieve anything, there is an intentionality with that. We carefully sit down and plan our strategic goals, and we work collaboratively with our staff, with our students, and with our parents to ensure that we're meeting their needs. We conduct surveys, we conduct focus groups, we work with people to try and find out what are those things that we're trying to do. And then what we do is we put appropriate structures in place. I had the very, very great fortune to have a sabbatical a few years ago and go and spend 6 months at the Harvard Business School. And one of the catch cries from my time there was the idea that structure supports strategy. So once we're clear on what our goals are and what we're trying to achieve, the significant part is we need to put in place intentional structures that support our ambitions. So our people, our traditions, and our intentionality and strategic goals are the three things I believe that makes us a great school.
Right. And I was really fascinated that you have such very young children starting at the school from 2 months, which, you know, is an enormous kindergarten, I think you would describe it. But how does that work in Singapore? And is that something unusual, that very young children go to school or are in the same school environment as perhaps their brothers and sisters?
Look, it's not unusual for students to be starting so young in Singapore, nor is it unusual in international schools. It's something that is relatively common. Perhaps the distinction may be that students may be going to a standalone infant care or nursery facility somewhere else. One of the great opportunities for us and for our families is that 100% that you can come to school and bring your 3-year-old to school. You can also bring your 8-year-old to school, and maybe you might even bring, you might have had an older child, your 13-year-old, all to the same place. Now, please don't think that our classrooms for our Year 12s look anything like our classrooms and facilities for our younger students. And everything we have is catered for the individual student. If you look on our website, as I know you have, you can see that our facilities are diverse and very much catered for the needs of the students in that year group. But it does make life a lot easier when mum and dad can come down to the bus and they can put big brother and little sister on the same bus and they can come to school together. And there is that sense of pride. I'm a product of an independent school in Australia, and I can remember when I was in Year 4, which was the foundation year for the school, seeing the older students running around, and they were doing track and field. I had no idea what they were doing, but I knew that when I was a big boy, I wanted to be part of that team. And we see that with our students here. They aspire to be what the big kids are doing, and that's what I love about that AIS spirit. It permeates everything all the way throughout school.
And there seems to be quite an emphasis on creativity and curiosity with even the very young children, and that flows through the school.
Oh, yeah, look, absolutely. Our teaching and learning profile has creativity, inquiry, as very much the central part of what we're trying to achieve. If you go to a 3-year-old classroom or you go to an IGCSE maths lesson, yes, very, very different, but there should be some commonalities which are all a part of our teaching and learning philosophy. So, we have the International Baccalaureate PYP program for our 3-year-olds through all the way through our primary school. And then we move into our IGCSEs or the International Baccalaureate Diploma program at the older years. And even though these are different programs, they all have that common theme: inquiry, collaboration. These are all part of what we're looking to do as part of an AIS education.
Great. So let's just talk a bit more about curriculum so people can understand and perhaps the Australian influence, and you just touched on the other curriculums there. So this obviously something that's really quite robust for all students. So what sort of courses and programs do you have on offer, and how do parents select all this? What stages do the students select?
Of course. So our journey, as we mentioned, begins with our 2-year-olds, actually our 18-month-old students. And the students there, we're using the Australian Early Years Framework as developmental milestones for students as they work their way through that early part of their development. We have a wonderful tool at school called Story Park, where parents are invited in the classroom and teachers will be posting stories, but these stories are learning journeys of our students from the youngest years. Our 3-year-olds, as I've mentioned, all the way through our year 5s, undertake the International Baccalaureate Primary Years program, which is an international philosophy on education, which is based on the tenets of the International Baccalaureate organisation. The content comes from the Australian curriculum. So that's our link back to Australia. So the philosophy and outlook may be PYP, but our content comes from the Australian curriculum. Year 6, 12-year-olds through to our year 8s, which are turning 14, they are doing the Australian curriculum in its truest sense. The Australian curriculum is an interesting curriculum. It's the youngest of all the national curricula. I won't get into the debate about why Australia took so long to get a national curricula. That's a bit embarrassing for an Australian to have with a Brit, because I know the British national curriculum has been in place for so much longer. But then at year 9, year 10, our students do the International General Certificate of Secondary Education, the IGCSE, which is like the O levels or GCSEs in the UK. They are a strong and robust and internationally recognised curricula that support students going into their matriculation years. And we have 2 pathways: the Higher School Certificate, which is an Australian qualification similar to O levels, and the International Baccalaureate Diploma program. And students choose the pathway in consultation with our counselling staff as to what is going to best support them as they move towards university.
And what's the sort of split, roughly, in percentage? Who chooses what?
It's interesting. When I started at the school, it was about 2/3 to the HSC and about 1/3 to the IB. That has moved more to around about 60-40, 60 being the IB and IBDP, and about 40% being the HSC.
And where do students tend to go afterwards? The world's their oyster, no doubt.
Look, absolutely. And we're seeing that increasingly now, that students are looking at a number of destinations throughout the world. The UK and Europe has always been a pool for our students, because we do have a lot of students from the area, but increasingly we're noticing students going to the United States. Our head girl from 4 years ago, Amelia Woodward, is about to finish her degree in biotechnology at Stanford University. She used to tease me because Stanford, I think, on a university polls rated it's the 2nd best university in the world, and Harvard was 3rd. And she used to tease me and say, "Look, I'm sorry, sir, but only 3rd best." Yeah, she was a magnificent young lady. A lot of our students do go back to Australia as a destination as well, being an Australian school, and obviously being the Australian school, we would be and are the best school on island for placing students in Australian universities. But really, the world is our oyster in terms of our university destinations, and our counselling team work tirelessly to support that transition. It starts in year 10 when we start looking at what students' interests are. We support them with their subject selections, and then ultimately getting their applications for university set and ready to go. And as I said, we've had some great success with some of the top universities throughout the world since I've been here at the school and beyond.
And so young people will be taking up all sorts of different careers around the world. One of the things you mentioned is that you have a lot of students from different nationalities, so there's this sense of global mindedness. But I thought it was quite interesting your languages that you offer, and people would be very interested to hear about that. So can you describe what language options are available at the school?
Absolutely. So our primary language in the elementary school is Mandarin, and so that's taught daily in all of our classes, all the way from our 2-year-olds. Oh, I speak about our 18 months. If you want to, you feel a little bit bad about yourself and you're having a tough day, I just duck up to the nurseries and I watch them do a Mandarin lesson. It is delightful. Myth Faith with her ukulele and singing songs in Chinese. It's just beautiful. So that happens all the way up through to year 5. But if students want to undertake their mother tongue, if we've got a student from South Africa who want to continue with Afrikaans, or a student from India who wants to do Hindi, we do have access to mother tongue tutors who come on to campus and work with our students as part of our co-curricular program. In the secondary school, we expand our curricular offerings to, we continue with Mandarin, but there's also French, Indonesian Bahasa, and the opportunity to study Spanish as part of the curriculum. But once again, we have a number of students that undertake mother tongue languages. Korean is particularly popular, and we're getting a really big groundswell of Korean students, and that may be a subject we start to offer if we get enough students interested in the curriculum. Up at the IB, I'm probably talking to people from Europe. It seems that a lot of the Scandinavian languages are very popular with our IB students. Over the years, we've had Finnish, Danish, Swedish studied as mother tongue options. So really, the options really are limited by what students wish to undertake when they're here at school and where their passions lie. They have so many opportunities. We have a mother tongue coordinator in both the elementary and the secondary school that facilitates those language programs, which is wonderful.
And what about science and technology and STEM subjects? I think a lot of people are thrown to them with the COVID experience, just how important these topics are. What's the position in the school for opportunities?
Now, Fiona, I do need to declare my hand here. I in a former life, I was a physics teacher. And so what we call here at AIS STEAM, not just STEM, is something which is really important to us. The reason we add the A, that's the artistic, that's the creative, that's the difference perhaps you might see between an Apple product versus a Microsoft product. It's two wonderful solutions for a computing issue, but the Apple just tends to do things a bit differently and a bit more creatively. So we try and have that as part of what we do. As I sit here in this office, above me is our Year 2 and our Year 1 classrooms. And in each of those, they have innovation labs. The Year 1 classroom is more about recycled materials and how you might be able to use those recycled materials to solve a problem. The floor above gets a bit more technical, a bit more into robotics. Throughout the school, we use iPads in the elementary school, so each child has an iPad. In the secondary school, they use laptop computers. So innovation, science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics, very much central to what we do. And let's face it, here in Singapore, a land where STEAM is very much a part of the day-to-day life, you do need to make sure you are presenting opportunities for your students to stay well ahead. So it is an exciting time to be here. I mean, things like they're starting to pilot driverless buses here in Singapore. Now, I'm not sure I'm going to be brave enough to step out in front of them, but to have the opportunity for our students to actually see this happening in real time in front of them brings to life the concepts that we share as part of our STEM curriculum. So that's something which is really exciting for us.
Mm. And I imagine you've got some young people who are very engaged by robotics and AI and all sorts of digital experiences.
Well, very much so, both within the curriculum and the co-curricular programs, most definitely.
But employers are very much looking for emotionally intelligent young people. So how do you bring in the creative area as well, and the communication skills via perhaps drama or other artistic methods?
Look, one of the things about any school that ever I've been involved with, or any school that I will run now or in the future, we're never going to just be focused on academic results or scoreboard achievements or trophies in the cabinet. We're always looking about being a well-rounded student. We have 3 values: achievement, respect, and opportunity. And the opportunity means that every student needs to have the chance to be great at what they are great at. So as a school, we undertake to offer a variety of options. So our creative and performing arts is a real beacon of pride for me. I've already declared myself a physics teacher with 2 left feet and tone deaf. So I feel horribly inferior and insignificant when I go into our art department or I go and look at one of our productions. But I am always filled with immense pride to see what is going on. A well-rounded student is someone who is going to have so much more success. I mentioned to you Amelia at Stanford doing biotechnology, clearly a very big science mathematics brain, very much so. But she also was our first chair in our school orchestra. She also was part of our rock ensemble. I can still remember with great excitement, great humour, the day that she took her hair out and took her glasses off and kind of shook it out and sung like a doo-wop girl, but behind the lead singer. It was one of the highlights of my time at AIS. So most definitely, every aspect of a child's personality, every aspect of a child's education is central to what we do here at AIS.
Mm-hmm. And also, I was very impressed by the sporting achievements. And in fact, you have a whole special sports area. Is it called the ADP? Was that right? Yes.
It's our athlete development program. Look, sports, the physical domain is something which is really important. Even for those, we don't profess to be producing Olympic athletes or professional sportsmen, although we have been fortunate to have a few that have come through the school and done that. But that's not what we're about. What we want is to provide, once again, that word opportunity for our students to undertake programs in the physical domain that might actually set them up for later on. So the ADP program is an opportunity for those students who are engaged in our sporting opportunities to take that to the next level. They have an opportunity to do some specific training in an ADP lab with ADP trained teachers to take their level of performance to a new point of refinement. I mentioned that 3rd goal of being achievement. Well, if you are a great athlete, we want to celebrate that. If you're a great mathematician, we want to celebrate that. If you're a great singer, we want to celebrate that. But in terms of the athlete program, we have lots of opportunities for our students. Before COVID, we will travel all over the world to participate in, or shouldn't say the world, the region to participate in activities as far as Dubai and then all around the region here. In fact, a few years ago, 2019, pre-COVID, my children, who are, and don't tell them this, they're only average swimmers, but they got to go overseas 3 times to represent our school in swimming competitions. That's fantastic. I just love that. And the multicultural aspect that comes with that. It's not just about swimming. It's meeting a student from Thailand. It's meeting a student that goes to school in the UAE that comes from Sweden. I mean, these are the opportunities that exist in an international setting and exist here at AIS.
And in fact, is forming the global citizens of the future. And no doubt some very firm friendships are built up over those visits. So what else might an international family have to consider if they were coming to Singapore and were looking at the Australian International School? What else might they need to consider?
Look, I think that choosing a school, there is nothing more important. Our children are gifts to our lives, and we want to make sure that we give them the chance to succeed. And education is an important part of that journey. When you're looking at schools, what you're looking for is, are the programs going to meet our child's needs? Do they have a track record of success? Are there opportunities to undertake a variety of activities rather than just being pigeonholed into one? Do the facilities match and meet what the school is trying to achieve? So these are the kind of things that people should consider when choosing an international school. There is nothing more important than that. I would urge people to visit different schools, albeit virtually as at the moment, and to visit us as well, and then make that comparison and make that choice. I know that what we do is really, really great, and I'm so proud of what the staff here do to support kids to be the best versions of themselves. So I think that's what I really would encourage people to look at. How are they going to meet their children's educational needs, no matter what school they choose?
And of course, being an international school, you're very used to families coming and going. You've mentioned some of your pupils have been here throughout their school career, which is wonderful. But a lot of people moving to Singapore may only be there 3 or 4 years. Do you think that's a fairly typical time span? Is that what you're experiencing?
Yeah, I think our average length of tenure is about 4.5, 5 years. And I have said this publicly before. It is my greatest lament and my greatest excitement all at once that we only have these beautiful children for that period of time. My greatest lament because I don't always get to see them grow and become young men and women, although, as I've mentioned, increasingly we're seeing that happening here at AIS. But it's also my greatest excitement because when I was at Churchie in Brisbane, a great big boys' school, there was no opportunity for new people to come into the school and to bring their talents and their passions because the school was full and children and boys didn't tend to leave. Because of the transitionary nature of international education, we're blessed with the chance to get a number of new people in, and all they do is they go and enhance the experiences that we have. You know, it's interesting, our head boy this year has been at the school all the way since he was 3 years of age. But our head girl came when she was in year 10. So it doesn't mean just because you've had a long tenure that you are going to ascend to the highest student position in the school. It really depends on embracing the opportunities that are presented to you, the kind of person you are, and what the successes that you make of your chances here. So that's the great thing about international education, but it's sad at the same time. I'd love to see them the whole time through.
Yeah. And transition care for both the students and the families. Can you explain that a little for people who may not appreciate what you can do to support them?
Look, the transition into AIS commences at the moment when you engage with our admissions team. The wonderful people that work in our admissions team are experts not only on the Australian International School, but they've lived here for a time as well. And they're also experts in transitioning into life here in Singapore. So what we find is that our admissions team tend to be the people, the first point of contact that a number of people will reach out to you and ask questions, where will you live? Can I get, sorry to go with an Australian context, can I get Vegemite in Singapore? These kind of questions get asked at the very, very start. What we will do also is that we will, when the children come into the school, we will link the child with a buddy. It's one of the things that our students love. They love being part of the buddy program because we can all remember, even myself who's been here for a long time, I can remember being the new kid on the block. And so I can remember the anxieties and the things that I needed to know. So our students love that too. They engage in a buddy program and every child gets matched with a buddy. The buddy tends to be someone that has similar interests, and our admissions team kind of tease that information out from our parents to say, well, what does your child have an interest in? And they try and make sure they match those carefully with the support of our heads of year to make sure you get the right match. Similarly, with our parents, our Australian National School Parents Association, affectionately called ASPA, ASPA have a number of new parent forums, and we've just introduced this lovely new idea, which I think is just brilliant, the ASPA ambassadors. So these are people from different countries, and the way they catch it is beautifully, find your tribe within our tribe. So it's an opportunity, if you're coming across from Russia, to have a group of Russian parents to engage in some of the uniquely challenging aspects of moving to a new country, to a new school, with people that have a common understanding. So that's what we do. And then the other side, which you know, I wish we weren't so good at as well, but also transitioning people out. So around about term 3, term 4, we start having sessions at the school about dealing with moving on, dealing with grief. You know, it is a grieving moment when students and parents leave a country that they've called home. So we start with our admissions, we transition people into the school, and then at the other end, when they leave, we also assist them with their transition out of the school and back to other countries all over the world.
And of course, your admissions department is also very used to a rolling admissions program. So people needn't be hesitant if they suddenly realise that they're off to Singapore.
Look, definitely. I think probably the moment I had greatest pride in a family came into Singapore. They were set to go into a school on Friday. For whatever reason, that didn't quite meet their needs. They came to us Friday afternoon. They were a secondary student. Our academic team in the secondary school met with the family to make sure that we had the right subject selections and could support that transition. And because they were in the older years, we were able to get them into school on Monday. And that meant that they were not missing out on their learning, which is important at the top end of the school. And that was, it's not typically quite that quick, but the reason it was is because it met the needs of the child. And that is the most important thing to anyone in our school. Our Director of Facilities and Maintenance, T.S. Lim, it's not uncommon to see him engaging with our younger students saying, "You look lost, can I take you to where you need to be?" All of us are involved in the education of our children, no matter where we fit into the structure. So you're right, anytime you want to come into the school, maybe give us more than 3 days, we'll be grateful, but if need be, we've done that once.
Great, well, that all sounds very amenable. So I know your team have put together some nice photos of the school. Shall we just have a quick look, and you can perhaps just comment on some of them as we look at these slides. So there's the map of Singapore, which you described when we met. And of course, there's those trips around Asia to look forward to as a family and from the school.
Yes, and the Australian school is right in the middle of the island. So wherever you live on the island, you're only about 25 minutes from our door, and there is a door-to-door bus service. This next slide is some of our COVID measures in place. You can see the scanners. The lady doing the scanning in the far left is our Director of Community Engagement. So not only do our teaching staff get involved with checking the students in, but also our operations staff. We are the Sharks, as you can see there. That's our Managing Director. He's a very, very clever finance man, but he's also quite the performer, so he loves donning the shark costume. So I can guarantee that you are going to be safe and secure here in Singapore and at AIS with regard to the COVID measures. Maybe I'll just click through that. And there's our campus. We are a long campus, about 1 kilometre from end to end. I get lots of steps up. What you see in the foreground is our early learning village. You can see our playing fields, our tennis courts on the roof, our swimming pool, and in the distance you can see our secondary school. So you transition through the school there. And our facilities do meet the needs of our children. There we can see our early learning village. There is the green, the students slowing down there. I mentioned the significance of our people. There's Theo. Theo is our art teacher. James Midgley, one of our chemistry teacher. Brady Klein, our digital learning teacher, and Alicia, our specialist in early years. So these are really where our talent lies. We've got magnificent people in the school. This is just one of those proud father moments. We had absolutely exceptional academic results. I'm so proud of what our students achieved. And more than that, I'm proud of the stories that went behind them. COVID-19 was a desperately difficult year all over the world. And the success, the best results that we have had since I've been at the school, and probably our best results ever, on the base of exceptional academic well-being and support of these young men and women. And they're going to go off to be absolutely magnificent leaders in the future. So I'm really proud of what we achieved last year. And then just some images, there's James Perry, one of our year 4 teachers, working with his students. The relationship between student and teacher is absolutely crucial. We spoke about the opportunities. 3 of our violinists, year 12s from last year, they've all left us and gone to bigger and better things this year. So just an example of that. Our internationalists, an international community, this is Ice Day, where students will dress in different outfits from all over the world. So I do love that picture because it does capture what we are as a school. We are multicultural. We're a microcosm for Singapore. We're a microcosm for Australian society, which embraces all these different cultures and takes what's great about them to make us greater collectively. So just some pictures that show you a little bit about our school and where we are in the world.
Brilliant. And I hope you'll be having your International Day this year. So what time of the year is that held?
So Ice Day, our International Cultural Extravaganza, is the last day of term 2. So that will be mid-July. And we engage in a variety of different cultural activities, cultural workshops. I've seen whip cracking. I have seen blow darting. I've seen henna tattooing. Chinese calligraphy, wonderful. Then we have a magnificent Foods of the World opportunity, and we finish with a showcase putting together all of the different performances throughout the world. Usually the prefects put on a performance and they drag a talentless head of school onto stage. So if you go on YouTube, you can actually see me singing and dancing, which is terrible, let me promise you.
Well, let's hope it's said viral this year then. We'll look forward to it.
Fortunately, it hasn't gone viral, Fiona, because my reputation and career would be shot.
Well, thank you very much for that very insightful talk about Singapore and the school. It looks a very energetic and engaging school and very welcoming to people from around the world. So thank you very much for your time, Andre Casson. And we were delighted to have this conversation and hope perhaps you'll be back in touch to update us on progress of the school.
Yeah, it'd be a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time. I've enjoyed it immensely.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
I was speaking to Andre Casson, Head of School for the Australian International School in Singapore. And here are their contact details, and they'd be delighted to hear from you. And as I said before, they've got a very full and extensive website. So this has been part of our spring series of webinars for the International Education and Schools Fair. So here are some of the spring season where we've visited the International School of Brussels, we've explored bilingual education, and we've also been talking to schools in Thailand. So please keep up and have a look on the website and enjoy this webinar series. As you will know, we are a multimedia which has a range of education resources and information on our website with daily news, as well as our quarterly digital magazines and e-newsletters. So thank you very much for joining us, and please do get in touch with the Australian International School for further information.